who is here this afternoon and who I'd like to invite to say a few words. Gareth, where are you?
Those people who've been surprised to see me and said, I thought you were dead. I answer, can you see me? My good friend here has given me a few minutes to pimp my books, the first two editions, the third and last one of the trilogy. I made it. The last one of the trilogy will be out before Christmas, so if you have not bought any, then you've got a lot of money to pay to get all three. Whenever there's a crowd, some entrepreneur, some smart Alec will pop up to sell something. In Liz Taylor's film of Cleopatra, it was the big moment where she's brought out on this giant chair, and you've got to try and imagine the scene. It's 90 degrees in the shade, and this film is costing millions every day, and she's off ill all the time, and so the budget keeps going up and up. So this is the last chance to get this take. And try and imagine the wee Italian refugees who have built all the giant Egyptian scenery in the background. And she's brought out on a huge giant chariot pulled by 16 horses with Egyptians on the horses. In front of them, there's 4 camels, and before them, 2 elephants. And there's 3,000 extras there. And the director's behind the camera on a crane, and he shouts action. The trumpets go and the drums beat, and this whole panel play of this huge, huge march comes out from the back. And he goes up on the crane like that, and he gets so high, and he says, cut, cut! Get that first Schlesinger son of a bitch off the set! And right in the middle was a little guy selling ice cream. Now, just a couple of minutes more. At the start of book 1, I write about my cousin, Ian Christie. Ian was a first-class journalist, trained in Scotland, when a journalist was a journalist and not a hack. And he was working for the Times and Reuters. And they sent him to Mozambique to follow the independence battle, struggle against the Portuguese. And he got to meet the leader of the people who've been downtrodden. Samura Machel, a charismatic democratic socialist. So charismatic and so democratic that the Queen invited him to dinner at least a couple of times. So his job was to report back to the Times and Reuters what was happening, the slash and burn that the Portuguese were doing. And he would go around the various villages and towns and give a speech to lift their spirits. And then one day, Ian started to write back also about Rhodesia and what Ian Smith, the Prime Minister, was doing in that apartheid state. And the British newspapers didn't like it, so they played a double game. They smeared him. They said he was a communist, Lord Ho-Ho of Africa. Ian was really mad. He died only a few years ago. He was a pipe smoker, cancer of the tongue, and he was given a hero's funeral by Mozambique. Not a single newspaper in the UK mentioned it. The head of Mozambique said that this Scotsman had taught them what democracy meant. Now, I'm going to ask you quickly to listen to this short anecdote, which is not in the book. He followed Samura Machel to each town and village, and Machel would give this big speech. We are going to drive the Portuguese murderers off our land. We will send the colonialists home. And afterwards, the villagers would stand up and say, Viva Frelimo. Can you say that? Viva Frelimo. 1, 2, 3. Viva Frelimo. Okay, that's the Mozambique word for freedom. So, at the end of the speech, he turned to Ian and he said, my people, this Englishman has come all the way from Great Britain to tell the world of our struggle against those oppressors. Wah! Let's hear it. Frelimo. Afterwards, Ian said, you know, that was a great speech, a wonderful speech, but I have to correct you. I'm not Scots. I'm not English, I'm Scots. And Samura Machel said, well, I understand that, but my people haven't actually, they wouldn't know a Scotsman if they met one, but they know an Englishman. They know from the British Empire. No, he said, look, it's important to me, Samura. If you just correct that, we'll be fine. Next village, big speech. We will drive the Portuguese murderers from our soil. Viva Frelimo! And this Scotsman has come all the way from London to tell the world about our struggle. And afterwards, Ian said, please, Machel, that was an inspiring speech, but I didn't come from London. I came from Scotland. And Samura said, I know that, but how can I tell my people that? They've never actually heard of Scotland. It's a tiny little country. It's important to me, said Ian. Please, just make the correction. Last village. Big speech. And the crowd really just jumped up in the air. And they said, Viva Frelimo! And he turned Samura to Ian and said, this Scotsman has come all the way from his homeland to tell the world of our struggle. Scotland who won its struggle against independence against the English imperialists. And afterwards, Ian said, oh, for God's sake, he said, I was moved to tears, but, you know, Samura, we lost. We didn't win our independence. And Samura said, I know that. How the hell can I tell my people that? And finally, that's me telling you what it's like to be a Scotsman in a country that should be independent again, autonomous. Remember this. The colonial will always tell you your predicament is forever. You can't get out of it. As Alistair Union Jack said, suck it up. Okay? You need to understand that, how brutal the British state is, especially with our resources that it needs. Never ever forget when you're down, when you're in despair, when you feel you've got to the bottom and having to start again. No nation ever rose up to demand its abolition. Viva Alba!